Hi everyone, this is MTG Adventures for another episode of the Electro-End Chronicles about the EZ Electro-End Rhinos deck. So this is the episode number 5, and today we're going to talk about the Manabase of our deck. This is a really important topic because I worked a lot on the Manabase past in the days, and this is very tricky and very important part of how we're going to play this deck with the maximum of good results. So, we're gonna talk about many parts of the mana base question. First is gonna be the basic question is just how many lands? How many lands we're gonna run? Okay, that's the very first question we're gonna ask when we just build a deck. So, three questions. The CMC average. CMC average is just a way to find how many lands we should run in the deck. I must mention that I used for the CMC average the video of MTG Goldfish about it. I will put the link down below. You can check it. It's really interesting and really nice if you build some decks. If you like to brew your own decks in modern and other format. Okay. After we're going to talk about what kind of cards are we playing, because the CMC average signification is not the same depending about what cards we are playing. And this deck is very specific because we are playing a lot of cyclers card, so the CMCs are not the CMCs written on the card. That's different, okay? And finally, how many lands we need in opening hand. That's definitely a question we should ask when we are asking how many lands we should play, because if we need more lands in opening hands to make the deck work, of course we need to play more lands. So we're gonna begin by this CMC average question. Let's go. So let's talk about how the CMC average is calculated. So the CMC average is the total of CMCs divided by the total of non-land cards in your deck. Total of CMCs is all the CMCs of your non-land cards. You just add all together, and after that you divide it by the number of non-land cards that makes, and you're gonna find a number. And if you find like 0.75, that means you probably should run 17 lands. If you're gonna go to 1, it's 18 lands, 1.25 it's 19 lands, and 1.5 it's 20 lands, etc, etc. So that's a very useful tool to see around how many number of lands, how many lands you should run. But this is just the general rule. With our deck and what your deck wants to do, you have to think differently. You can use this tool, but not just simply look at it and say, okay, I put the number of lands written here. You just have to see what your deck is doing, what the cards in your deck are doing. So that's a very important point. So to calculate the CMC average of our deck, we just have to pay attention about the kind of cards we are playing in the deck, as I just said before. So what are we playing in the actual list I put in this video? So we are playing, of course, 4 Living Ends, that's 0 CMC. We are playing 4 Crashing Footfall, that's 0 CMC. And 2 Street Race, we can consider as a 0 CMC because we're never gonna pay the real cost of the card. After that, we are playing 4 Strip Level Winder. I count this 4 card as 4 CMC. That means 1 for each of them. Because we are cycling this guy for 1, we're not gonna outcast this guy. Winkle Raven, same. We're gonna count 4 for the CMC because it's 1 mana cycling. After, for the Waker of Waves, we are counting 4 because we are playing 2 of them, and it costs 2 each to cycle. Riemann, 4 copies, so 8. Electro-Elements, we're gonna count as 2 CMC card, even we can pay more for X, as we all know. So we're gonna count 8. As Foretold is the most expensive card of our deck. It's 4 copies, and so this is 12. And finally, we get Brazen Borrower. I counted Brazen Borrower. Brazen Borrower is 6 because it's 3 CMC, but I count that we're gonna play one time the Pretty Thief and one time the Brazen Borrower. So I just count as 5 in our deck because we not on always put Brazen Borrower with on the board. So I count as 5. Force of Negation, um, it's 12, but we are not really a we are not really paying this card for 3, except in some not common case, but it happens regularly. But that's very rare, in my opinion, to cast more than one Force of Negation for 3 in a game. So this is 12, but I count that as 3. Like I can 3 copies as 0 and 1 as 3 because we are likely to cast 1 and 3. Okay? Corridor Mystery is a bit tricky too because it's a 1 mana cycling, but we are likely to cast one of those guys regularly in our games. So I count as 7 for the 4 copies, like because the CMC is 4, and we count 1 for the creator CMC and 3 copies for the cycling CMC. So this is 7. I base my reflection about those 3 last cards on how I play the deck, and I played it many times. So regarding how we are playing it, I think this is the most right way to count the CMC of our cards. So the real CMC, if we count everything, would be 62, and 62 by 42 cards is 1.47, so 20 lands. But the total CMC in play, that means with the number changed, as I just told you, is 55. So this is most realistic. Though 55 divided by 42 is 1.30. So that means regarding the CMC average rules we saw before, it means like we should probably play 19 lands in our deck. So that's it. If we just count everything, we should play 19 lands. But after, we can move to a bit lower lands because sometimes because you can play 19 lands. We're gonna see that after. And actually, I'm trying to be back on 19 lands sometimes to try if the difference is really if you can really feel difference when you're playing in the deck. But because of the cycling mechanic, you can play a bit more less than 19 lands. So that moves us to our next point, which is how many lands do we want in the opening hands? And that's a big question. Let's move to that question right now. And now here we are. Big numbers. So, hypergeometric distribution stats. So if you want to do the stats yourself for your deck, this deck, verify my numbers and stuff, I worked a lot on this, but I can tell you all those numbers are right. I verified many times my calculations, and it seems exactly as we needed to show you the stats of the deck. So this hypergeometric tool is also in the link down below, and I discovered this hypergeometric distribution tool thanks to another video about hypergeometric distribution of MTG Goldfish, link down below also, and I talked about this in the last video about Cyclers too. So that's the same rules. I did 2 cases. One case with 18 lands, one case with 19 lands, because no way we're gonna play 17 and no way we're gonna play 20. That's my opinion, and regarding the stats we have here, I'm pretty sure about that. So 18 or 19 lands, depending about what do you want to play, what do you prefer to be on, but you can play 18 or 19, okay? So now playing 18 lands or 19 lands doesn't change that much the chances we have to have one land or more in our opening hands. As you can see, we have 93% chance with 18 lands and 94 with 19 lands. So that's not a big difference. The difference comes when we are talking about having 2 or more lands in opening hand. 68.5% with 18 lands and 72% with 19 lands. That's actually 3.5 more with 19 lands. So this is a significant percentage, and that's kind of important to see that. That's basically the chances in your opening hand, or your opening 7, of course. For the moment, we are just talking about opening 7. After that, you see we get some things in red in our numbers. Okay, that means we have 7% chance to get 0 land in opening hands. So that means we can't play the hand because we're not gonna keep a hand with no land. So 6% we got with 19 lands, and just 7% with 18 lands. That makes sense. And after that, we get 5 land or plot or more. 5 land or more is unplayable with this deck. Unplayable. The only hand I could imagine keep with 5 lands, it's Electro-Dominance, Rhinos, and 5 lands. But if you get discarded, end of the game. So basically, I don't recommend to keep any hand with 5 or more lands. So that means we get 2% chance to get 5 or more lands with 18 lands, and we have 3% with 19 lands. That means in both cases, we get 9% chance to have an hand unplayable. So that's the variation of the game. 9% chance to have an unplayable hand. It's the same with both 18 and 19 lands. So doesn't matter what you choose. Okay. After that, we got the ideal hand. Our deck, regarding to my experience and thinking about what we are playing, we definitely the ideal for us is definitely to have 2 or 3 lands. 2 lands with the right card in hand is definitely the best thing. I think 2 lands is better than 3. If you get some cyclers in hand, 2 lands is better than 3. So the chances to have 2 lands in opening hand are 33.7 and 33.2%. So that's very close, so no problem with that. After, the chances to have 2 or 3 lands are 57 and 58.5, so that's 1.5 more percent if you are running 19 lands, and 2 or 3 lands is definitely the right spot where you want to be. So it's kind of important. After that, you have the chances of having 1, 2, or 3 lands in opening hand, because we can play hands with 1, 2, or 3. We're gonna see the big subject is about 1 land in opening hand for the deck, but 1, 2, 3 playable. 0, 4. 4 is close to be playable. We're gonna see that after. 1, 2, 3, it could be a really good game. Okay. 4 is playable but slightly playable. Okay, very important not having too much land in hand with the deck, because our deck is supporting very much to have not a lot of lands, but is definitely not a deck where you want to have a lot of lands. That sometimes you're gonna just lose because you get too much lands, even we are playing 18 or 19. So 1 to 3 is 81.8 if we are playing 18 lands, and 80.7 if we are playing 19 lands. Okay, so that means that's really close to be the same. It's close to be the same amount. So last average, having 4 lands in opening end, that's a tricky point. 9%, 10.6 with 19 lands. That's a tricky spot. After that, having one land in opening hand is 24% with 18 lands, 22 with 19 lands. So that means we're gonna have a bit more often one land in hand with 18 lands. But I prefer to get more more often. Sorry. I prefer to get one land hand to have four land hands sometimes. I will explain myself with the following stats. So you can just keep these stats in head and think, what do you prefer? Basically, um, seems to I think 19 lands kind of good, but 18 lands very playable, no problem. If you're playing 19 lands, I recommend to add like a fifth fetch land, not being to not have a lot of lands, like to have less chance to get a lot of lands later in the game. Okay, and maybe we're gonna talk about which land we are playing. If you are playing 19, maybe you want to have the third priority islet and stuff like this. Okay, so that's it for this first part. Let's move to the second one. And now we move to the big question: can we keep one land hand? So I have a lot of stats for you, and that's really important because you will have this case a few times, and you have to see when you can do what. That's really important. But regarding what we just said before, remember, ideal 2 or 3 lands, unplayable none or 5 or more lands, and risky 1 or 4, but 1 could be better than 4 usually. Okay, because 4 means that you get more active cards in hand, so better cards in general cases. Now, so we are just talking about if you have a 1 land hand, okay? So this numbers shows that if we are playing on, we are on the play or on the draw, and if we have 19 or 18 lands. So if we are running 18 lands and we are on the play, that means we got 7 cards in hand, right? After we got no draw for turn 1 because we are on the play, 1 draw for turn 2. After end of the turn first cycler, it's 1 more draw. Main phase cyclers, if we need it, it's 1 more draw. That means 10 draws total. So the percentage to have 2 lands turn 2 with 10 draws is 87%. So that means if you get 2 cyclers in your hand, because we need 2 cyclers, okay, you get this 87% chance to have your second land turn 2 if you keep a 1 land hand. On the draw that had the draw up to 1 draws, so it's 91%. That it really becomes really interesting. Okay. If you do it with 19 lands, of course we have 89% on the play and 92% on the draws. So be careful. What turns the stat lower than what we can just see here is each mulligan, yeah, because it's -1 draw if you mulligan. So anyway, I don't recommend to keep 1 land hand if you mulligan more than once. Once you if you see the stats, you can maybe do it. Depends of how many cycles you get in hand, but generally not 1 land hand if you mulligan more than once. So I can just -1 draw. Each fetch land. If your only land is a fetch land, don't forget that when you will fetch 2 cycle, of course you will have 1 less chance to get the second land. So it's -1 land for the average to have 2 land and turn 2. What turns the stat higher? Of course, it's each street race in your hand. It's +1 draw. So it turns the stat higher because street race doesn't need mana to be cycled. Okay, so street race just increase your chance to have your 2 lands turn 2 if you keep a 1 land hand. But be very careful. For the stats you just see here, it's 2 cyclers in opening hand needed. Okay, if you want the numbers here are true. So definitely need 2 cyclers in opening hand if you want to keep a 1 land hand. Okay, or more cyclers, of course. More cyclers you have, um, better it is. But it's to have 2 lands by turn 2. Okay, so no way you're gonna be able to cycle more than 2 cyclers, except Street Race, as we said, on turn 2. Okay, so after that, be careful. Waker of Waves doesn't count as a cycler here because we need 2 mana sources to cycling it, and of course, if we need the second lane turn 2, you don't have this in your hand. Okay, on the not in your hand but on the board. So of course, doesn't count the Waker of Waves. Okay, so my advices are just keep 1 land and 1 cyclers in only if you are on the draw and if you play 19 lands. It's already tricky, but you can do that. If you get just, or if you have, I can do that just only if I have very good payoff in my hand. For example, if I have the combo like Rhinos or Tensor Rhinos or a nice living end, maybe if I draw more cyclers, because of course it's quite easier to draw cyclers than to draw other combo pieces. So it depends of the combo pieces you have in your hand. Okay. So that means, in my opinion, I want to have like 90% chance to get my second lane. So I mean 90% is a decent amount of chance to have the lane turn 2. So if I'm running 18 lanes turn 2 on the draw, and of course I will tempt. Same for 19 lanes, of course. I think 19 lanes on the play, that's okay. Yeah, of course, if I get a Street Race for sure. But be careful if you're running 18 lanes, turn 2. If you are in the play, you get 2 cyclers, 87% chance. I prefer to get a Street Race to get like to go to 90%. So if you are on the play with 18 lanes, not sure you're gonna keep it if you don't have the Street Race. Other cases, you can keep it. So that's all the rules I wanted to share with you for the 1 land hand, because that's a question I asked myself a lot. Can I keep this hand with 1 land? Yes or no? What are the stats to have a good my second land? Of course, sometimes you will not have it, but a stats over 90% is reasonable to try if you get a really good hand. That's my point about the 1 land hands. Next question, and very important, but we're gonna go a bit faster on this one because no numbers are, I mean, no stats here, because which lands we play in the deck. Okay, so you get something you don't have no choice. You have to play those lands, but you get other ones. You get some choices, but of course, everyone you should play 4 copies of Spire of Calon, 4 copies of Scalding Tarn. The 1 mountain for me is really important. I will just tell you why. Because it's very about the life total, and also sometimes you don't have to get a steam vent when you don't need it. So shocking for 3 can make the difference. So having a basic mountain is quite important. And also we are not running that much basic, and if opponents just using a way to make a search for basics, at least we're gonna have 1 to 3 basics, and 1 will be a mountain. Okay, so of course 2 fire is needed. 3 is possible to play. Recently I played 3 a lot, and I'm really happy with that. So of course, as we have the deck, we don't want to have a lot of lands on the board. The ability to cycle the lands is really good. So 2 is an obligation, but 3 is really good, close to being an obligation, I can say. Steam bands. I said you can run for 2 to 4. I think 3 is maybe the ideal number, but if you want to be really reliable on the double red and double blue, we're gonna talk about this just right after. Now I'm running 4 in my actual list, I think. The basic island, one or two, depends what you prefer. Recently I'm just playing one because um, basic land are needed, but as we want to be really reliable to have double red, having the island in opening end is not that good. So I'm running just one recently, but you can run two if you feel it, but more than two it's definitely not a good idea. You can run two if you're not running Torlai West, for example, because if you're running two plus Torlai West, the deck will have some struggle. I'm telling you. So that's the land I have to see in your deck. After that, we get some more lands that you can have in your deck. You can have one or zero. Oh, it's in French, but that's Cascade. That's not Cascade Bluff. Yeah, this is Cascade Bluff. Um, so that's a filter land. Sorry, I didn't saw the card. It is in French, but you know you can pay one blue or one red, tap, and after you can put two blue, one red, one blue, or two red. Useful card, but if you get one land hand, you can't keep with this card because of course we can do colors, and we need to do some colors. So that's the downside. This is a big downside. So maybe you don't want to run that out anymore or at all. Okay. After Tolai West had been so tricky. That means this card just saved my life a lot of times because this card searching, of course, transmitting, searching for living end or rhinos. I just telling you the upside. Living end rhinos in the main deck. Uh, and when you have that in hand, you know your opponent can't discard this um, with for example, an Inquisition or Tatis. So that's an upside I found. Also, this card can search for some of your sideboard card because you are running Tomo's Crypt, so you can search for Tomo's Crypt if you are playing against a very heavy grave-based deck. So that's useful. And you can also search for Chalice of the Void in other cases. Okay, so Tola West as a one-off, no more, but could be really good. But I see this lane as a just a tutor, but not really as a lane. It's really rare that I'm reliable on Talai West in my Manabase plan. Okay, Mystic Rainforest is like the fifth fetch land we can add, or of course you can add any blue fetch lands. Good if you want to have Mystic Rainforest instead of Cascade Blocks. You can have one. If you are in 19 lands, I recommend to play the fifth fetch land. So that's land we can have actually in the deck, definitely. And now, why we are not playing those lands? I just mentioned Chivalry. If you are afraid about lot of life loss, you can just run 0 to 2 Shivan Reef. Or of course you can add Shivan Reef. If you are really not afraid about losing life, you can add Shivan Reef and Fiery Islet, but I think it's a bit too much. But that's a card I can see played in the deck. Soulful Force, unfortunately, we're not playing enough um, mountain or island named card to make that card uh, coming on the play not tapped as often as we wanted. Riverglide Pathway had been the card I was trying, but this card is not that good because the choice between the two side is not for our deck. We definitely need lands producing both because we need double blue and at the same time we need double red. So the choice is not that good. So Riverglide Pathway, definitely don't run that card. I tried it. That's not for this deck. Even the card is really nice, we can't run that in our deck. So let's move to another important topic about our mana base. It's the blue mana and the double red we need. So we need two things in our deck. We need to have blue sources turn 1 and two blue sources turn 2 or turn 3. Why? Because of course we want to be reliable on cycling and also on our plan with the combos. And the thing is, our cyclers all need blue. Okay, so we need blue source to cycle. Of course, that's basic, but we definitely need that. And second, we need to have two red sources by turn 2 or turn 3. I think it's really important to have it by turn 3. Turn 2, it's ideal, but by turn 3, you need to have the two red and the two blue source. Turn 2, turn 3. Okay, turn 3, two red, two blue. That's important to have that. Okay. So why? Because of course, turn 1 we can just go for the cycling of Corridor Mysteries, Triple Window, Wind Color Raven, Street Race. And turn 2, if we don't have already our two sources, and our second red sources, I mean, you definitely need to have two blue sources to cycle with of Waves, Remand, Pretty Thief, and of course, the Force of Negation. Need two blue. If you have to cast it on turn 3, it's same for the Brazen Borrower. Okay. Having two red sources is by turn 2 and turn 3, it's basically for Electro-Dominance. Electro-Dominance is basically the best card in our deck, and one of the big way to win a game for our deck is to put Rhinos on the play turn 2, and that's really important. You can also do some quite nice living in turn 2, because if you cycle one Street River Winder, one or two Street Race, sometimes against a control deck, for example, it's gonna go until the end, okay? So definitely really important to have that. So how we do that? So let's see. Stats again. Sorry, a lot of stats today. So if we are running 4 Spiral Above Canal, 4 Scalding Tarn, 3 Fire Airsled, 3 Steam Vents, 1 Mountain, 1 Island, 1 Cascade Bluffs, and 1 Tolar West, that's my actual list. We can say that we have 15 lands producing blue turn 1, untapped, of course. So 88% chance to have one untapped blue source in opening hand. That's a nice amount. As well, we have the same amount of lands producing red turn 1. So 88% chance to have untapped red source in opening hand. Okay? So after, now it's more important. We have 17 lands producing blue turn 2. 73% chance to have two untapped blue sources by turn 2 on the play. Okay? It turns to 79.5% if we get one cyclers, which will happen really often on turn 1. Or if we are on a draw, that means we have one more draw. And with both, it's 84.7%. So that's nice amount of chance to have what we need. For the double red, turn 2. Really the big thing if you want to jam the Rhinos on turn 2. Only 69% chance to have two untapped red sources by turn 2 on the play. Okay, of course, Solar West doesn't count as land here because Solar West never come untapped, and we even if we putting in turn 1, it's not a red source, so Solar West is very bad in this regarding the situation of the deck, right? 81% if we get one cyclers and we are on the draw to have double red. So that's decent chance to have it. If you want to have it and you want to be really sure to have it, just run 4 Steam Vents and not the Cascade Bluffs. And just don't run the Tolar West, run Mysterian Forest or another fetch land. So that means you're gonna be +2 lands royalable to have what you need. So maybe it's the right solution. Okay, so let's think about it. But I think it's a quite good solution there. So depends if you like Tolar West or not. Okay, so let's say don't forget, just don't forget, it's really important to think about this when you have your opening hand and when you're building your mana base. Okay, so let's move to another subject now. So a very common question we have about the deck is the life total versus the game plan. Yes, this mana base we just built plus the 3 traits effect are affecting a lot our life total. Against some kind of decks, it's a problem. Of course, Burn is a very complicated matchup. And if you don't want to dedicate it like 4 cards to the matchup in your sideboard, the only way to fight burn is basically to go faster than them. Other way, you can just forget the matchup. It's gonna be too complicated. Because if you want to be reliable on your game plan, you have to pay some life some way. Because you will see very often you're gonna fetch for 3 because you want to cycle. So you not likely turn 1 to fetch for 1 because you want to have the red and the blue. So you can fetch for 1 to get blue and cycle, and you get your Electro Dominance. Oh damn, I can't do my Rhino Stun 2 because I fetch for an island. So you definitely have to fetch for Steam Vents. You don't have no choice. Okay? And you can fetch for Mountain because you can cycle through it. You see? So definitely that's an important point. You're gonna lose 3 life early game very often. And that's good because that means your deck is working. But that's life. Of course, we are running now 2 and I'm running 3 Fire Racelet. So Fire Racelet is painful because you pay 1 life each time. And Street Race also painful but very powerful to cycling for no mana cost. If you're running 2 Street Race, that's okay. But now I'm running 3 to 4 because Street Race is really good, make the deck more reliable on our game plan and make the stats we saw before just higher. So for me, it's just a very good card. So my advice is always put the game plan first, even if you are taking some damages. Just be aware about when you need colors or not. So that means after turn 3, generally, it doesn't matter if you search for basic 1. You already have your things, right? Of course, if your opponent is not playing like a Blood Moon deck or some stuff like this, of course you need to your island early as you can if your opponent's playing those kinds of deck. Okay. But generally, turn 1 to 2 very important. You need to have those 2 red sources and 2 blue sources by turn 3. Okay. So turn 2 1 really turn 2 3 turn 1 2 really important. Turn 3 you have options. Of course, you can. It depends what you have in hand. And after the turn 4, it's really less important what kind of colors you take. It's very important in the beginning of the game. Don't do mistakes with that. It can just save you the game or just win you the game sometimes. Okay. So that's a subject really important. So yes, game plan better than life total. And finally, I wanted to finish by another subject, which is a subject a lot of people asked me a lot of time. The same question: why are you not splashing a green source to suspend crashing footfall when you don't have another way to play it? My answer is I tried it because I was thinking that's not good, but I tried it because a lot of people asked me that, so I tried it. First of all, suspending rhinos is a desperate option. That's very bad. Even in the rhino deck, maybe people will not be agree with me, but I think when I'm playing against rhinos and the suspending crashing footfall, oh yes, I have 5 turns. 5 because why? Because it's suspend 4 and as it's created some tokens, and this is not a creature coming from suspension, the rhinos doesn't have haste. So that means you're gonna wait 4 turns, and after that you're gonna have some rhinos can't attack at this moment. So in our deck, at least, it's very bad. But we can argue that against big control decks, it could be something. But in general, as my experience goes, I think sometimes I regret to suspended the rhinos when I tried it because I found some way to cast it just faster. Okay, it's in our deck as we are growing a lot. You will be more able to find a way to cast it that to go in suspension. Okay, so I think, and also I think this is not good, but also the mana base we just talked about is very tricky. So adding a source not producing red or not producing blue to get some green, that's not good. I will add it if we have a non-tap lens producing green, blue, or red. I would put 1 because it doesn't cost anything. But even if I get a Triumph, it coming tapped, it doesn't fit with the game plan we have. So I don't think green source is a good thing. That's my answer for this question. If you just think about it. And that's it, everyone, for this video about the Manabase of the EZ Electro-End Rhinos deck. So if you have some questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comments. I will be happy to answer to everyone, no problem. If you want to pick up the deck, I will put, of course, the deck list down below. So I wanted to do a conclusion in this video because when I did the stats and everything, and I was based on the lists I had at this moment. Nowadays, I change a little bit, and I change a little bit regarding all the stats I did about cyclers and about Manabase. When I finished the video about the Manabase and I finished the video about the cyclers, I was thinking to have the best stats about being the most reliable I can be with my game plan. So now I'm playing 18 lands, but no Tolaria West. Okay, so that's the point. Actually, I tried 19 with Tolaria West, and I realized that it's better, but Tolaria West is not a real land, and sometimes I prefer to get another cycler in hand than Tolaria West to have a more reliable combo plan. So I'm now playing Force Retrace and 18 lands, and no Waker of Waves. Waker of Waves is a good card, don't make me wrong, but it's completely off tempo. So as you saw in the stats, it's not even count as a cycler if you want to be reliable on a one land hand, and sometimes it just kill your tempo. So I'm not playing Waker of Waves nowadays, but it could be played. If you want to try it, try. Make your tries. It's really important to try. For the moment, actually, when I'm recording this video, I'm playing Force Retrace. I'm playing 18 lands. I'm playing 4 Steam Vents, and I'm also playing 3 Fire Aslet, 1 Mysterian Forest also. So definitely that's my choice. Actually, very very 4-off based deck, except for some few cards like Brazen Borrower. We need 2 Brazen Borrower. That's it. That's life. So we need it. Okay. So that's how I wanted to make the conclusion of this video. So stay tuned. I will do more. Next one will probably be about the combo pieces. We're gonna have another one about the sideboard guide. Everyone is waiting for this one, but we have to understand all the aspects of the deck before going into the sideboard. But we're gonna go for it. So we did cyclers, we did Manabase. We will do combo pieces. It's gonna be very fast. After we're gonna go for the counters and answers to the interactions basically, and we're gonna finish by the sideboard guide. So see you for another video. That was MTG Adventures, and don't forget to play the Electro-End deck as often as you can. See ya.